for some opening remarks. She's the Deputy Planning and Zoning Officer for Anne Arundel County. Thank you for being with us, Christina, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Lorenzo. I just wanted to welcome everyone to our first community forums for regions 2, 4, and 7. We're obviously glad you took time from your busy schedule to join us. The completion of 9 region plans is an effort to do more detailed planning than can be accomplished during a general development plan process. Many of you know that in the late 90s and early 2000s, there were 16 small area plans completed in the county. That proved to be an unsustainable effort, and the region planning process is a middle ground for the county between the small area planning effort and the level that the GDP focuses at. Your input is valuable and will be taken into consideration as the region plans are developed. Please keep in mind that Plan 2040 and the region plans are policy documents that contain goals, policies, and strategies for implementation. Zoning, whether it be the zoning ordinance or zoning maps, is by far one of the largest implementation tools for any plan and carries the force of law. The region plan process will include comprehensive zoning, which we will discuss in further detail this evening. And I encourage all stakeholders to stay engaged all the way through the process, including when the plans go to the Planning Advisory Board and the County Council. And with that, let's go ahead and jump into the forum. Back to you, Lorenzo.
Thank you, Christina. Before we take a look at the agenda, I wanted to share some meeting reminders. You can see a menu at the bottom of your screen. You can use the chat button on the left side to comment, ask a question, or for assistance. In case you need to tell staff something, that is where the chat goes directly to. You're all you attendees are muted at this time. We will have a Q&A session after a brief presentation, and during that time you will be asked to mute yourself so we can have our conversation together. The meeting will be recorded. I haven't heard the announcement yet, but it should come up soon. And you can use the raise hand during the Q&A portion if you would like to bring to our attention that you want to comment or say something. And then last but not least, be courteous to everyone present in the virtual space. We're all here to do our best in order to envision how Anne Arundel can be better in the next years coming. The next thing up is the agenda that you should all have seen when you registered for tonight's event. We're going to be talking about region plans. What are they and what is the process to create them? Divided into 4 specific sections: a brief intro, an outline of the purpose, process, and timeline for the region plans drafting, then a specific section about the comprehensive zoning process, and some community involvement and feedback maps details. This is going to take about 30 minutes or so, and then we'll have a lot of our time for comments and questions regarding this process. Finally, we have some time to let you know about the next steps that are going to be coming up in terms of plan drafting and other exciting events, and also opportunities for involvement that are coming up. I also want to introduce the staff that is present tonight. We heard from Christina just earlier. Cindy Carrier is also here, long-range planning administrator. I'm Lorenzo, once again, your moderator for tonight. We also have Mark, Eric, Patrick, and Jessica that are staffing different regions in terms of region plan drafting and all the efforts that and the work that we're doing in region 2, 4, and 7. So say hi to your neighborhood planner. And after these introductions, I would like to ask Cindy to join us for some opening introductions regarding the region plan process. Cindy?
Thank you, Lorenzo. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for being here tonight. I see a lot of familiar names, and we really appreciate you staying involved in our planning processes. The idea of community-driven planning was first introduced in Anne Arundel County with the development of the General Development Plan. Recognizing the unique character of Anne Arundel County's different communities, the 1997 GDP divided the county into 16 small planning areas and recommended that a separate, more detailed land use plan be completed for each. Those small area plans were developed consistent with the 1997 GDP between 1998 and 2004. Unfortunately, as Christina mentioned earlier, those plans were never updated. However, in 2018, county legislation was passed that directed the next general development plan to designate no less than 7 small planning areas. And that next GDP was Plan 2040. So throughout the work of Plan 2040, the Office of Planning and Zoning worked and engaged with countless residents through the community-based meetings, full-day workshop, the use of traditional methods of public engagement, and also innovative public engagement methods, primarily due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Community involvement is key to the success of any long-term plan, and we are proud that with the thousands of voices that the Plan 2040 represents, it was adopted by the County Council in May of 2021 and was awarded the Maryland Sustainable Growth Award in December of 2021. This growth award is the highest level of recognition for well-planned economic and community development and sustainability in the state. Throughout the Plan 2040 process, the 21-member Citizens Advisory Committee recognized the limited resources and drafted 9 region plan boundaries for community discussion. The boundaries were modified to reflect the public comments and eventually adopted with Plan 2040. And Plan 2040 not only set the boundaries of the regions, but also the implementation process and schedule for the region plans. The Office of Planning and Zoning began pre-planning for the region plans after the adoption of Plan 2040 and held a kickoff of the stakeholder advisory committees in December of 2021. The long-range planning staff is working hard with the assistance of the stakeholder advisory committees to define the challenges and opportunities in your communities, and we look forward to reaching another set of community-driven plans that will guide the future of communities within these regions. So again, welcome, and I'll turn it back over to you, Lorenzo.
Thank you, Cindy, for that background on the genesis of the region plans. Before we move on into some of the details that we outline in the agenda, we do have a little icebreaker that is also going to help us understand who is with us tonight. You should be able to see a poll question pop up on your screen. If you want to tell us what region do you live or work in, and how did you hear tonight about this community forum? You're going to have a few seconds to answer this question, and then we'll share it with everyone. I see most of you participated already. We're gonna soon end the poll. And thank you for that. We have Region 4 winning tonight with over half of the attendees, followed by Region 2 and Region 7. You should all be able to see these polls. And with that, let's get into talking about what are the region plans and what is the process that we're using as Office of Planning and Zoning with the community to draft them. It really, like Cindy was sharing just a few seconds earlier, there is a lot in the region plans that has to deal with the actual general development plan that was adopted just last year, Plan 2040. Region plans are one of the implementation tools that we have at our disposal to implement that policy direction that is set by the general development plan. This is common, not just in Anne Arundel County, not even just in the state of Maryland, but throughout the country. It's just the standard process of having a policy document, be it a master plan or a general development plan, depending on where you go, it's called in a different way. And then having a smaller geography, which is, in our case, the 9 region plans, to actually refine some of this policy direction that were drafted as a community, and then try to act on specific implementation tools, actions that you can actually see on the grounds in your neighborhood, in your region. About the Plan 2040, something that is going to be in the minds of all of us, writing and doing some technical work on the plans, but also it should be in your mind as a community that is giving us input on and direction on what to work on and how to work on it. There are the 4 chapters that we use to group the general development plan in general. Obviously, the groupings are just standardization, so our minds can make a good use of all the information that we need to take into account. We have the natural environment, built environment, healthy community, and healthy economy. That's a very simple way to describe a plan that is composed of over 105 policies, 463 strategies across multiple regions and neighborhoods in a quite large county that has a large population as well. But if you want to try and imagine how does the general development plan get implemented, you can see in the image that I'm sharing right now, there are several tools such as the capital improvement program, which then is broken down into individual projects that take several years to be concluded sometimes. There is the comprehensive zoning process that we're going to be talking about tonight. And there is the region plans process that is an additional one. And many of these implementation tools are also not only related to planning and zoning, but cut across different departments. And many times we end up working with our sister and partner agencies throughout Maryland and our neighboring counties as well. In terms of more of the specifics for someone that is not entirely familiar with the geography of planning or looking at maps like we do all day in the office, you can see a map of the county, and on the left side, we highlighted with the 3 circles, regions 2, 4, and 7, which are really the subject of this first grouping for region plans to be drafted and adopted. If you move your eyes all the way to the bottom right corner of the slide, you can see that we already have queued up a target start date for the remaining 6 regions, which is December 2022 for 1, 3, and 9, and April 2024 for 5, 6, and 8. There's obviously a lot that happens between now and 2 years from now. That's why those are target start dates, but we can let you know that we have a lot of staff that is doing a lot of work on these regions on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. And we're always eager to work with the entirety of the community to set goals and visions for each and every region that is very unique. And that is why the region planning process is very important. Two of the big points that we wanted to bring up tonight is that some of the region plans topics that are going to be addressed are really neighborhood specific opportunities for actions that can be taken that we could not get into the detail of at the general development plan stage. And that is just for the nature of things with having the GDP and Plan 2040 be such a overarching document. It is hard at times to actually give attention to the specificity of a street, a block that the community deserves. And that is why we're taking the time right now through a year-long planning process to be catering to those needs. The other thing that is quite different if you compare the GDP or Plan 2040 drafting process with the region planning process is that there is going to be a little more emphasis on the plan land use and zoning and overall the planning portion of these plans than what it was in the Plan 2040 drafting, which was actually a little more transversal with the other agencies. Here, planning is really taking a bigger role, and planned land use and zoning are something that are going to be a big portion of these plans. In this slide, you can see some milestones and the general 4 phases of the drafting of the region plans. You can see the first step on the left side is the plan initiation. We already concluded that at the end of 2021. We concluded it with a beginning, with the kickoff that was on December 11th. But we did have a lot of background research that was actually compiled during the GDP drafting. Right now, we are really towards the end of the community planning phase. You can see in red, that's tonight's community forum. And the next phases that we're lining up are a lot of the plan preparation in terms of drafting, in terms of analysis of simple geometries and other block and street and very detailed, again, work on the more planning and land development technical issues. We're also going to be working on drafting goals and strategies along with the stakeholder advisory committees at various levels and gather feedback from the community regarding this work that is being carried on as we speak. We're going to have design charrettes and or exercises that we want to involve the community in. And finally, the 4th phase, which is the review and adoption, is going to happen as by legislation, with the county council being the final body to review the plans in their entirety after a recommendation of the Planning Advisory Board. And those are both going to be full public hearings, as you may be used to seeing, and or providing testimony to support these plans, and let us know anything that you would like to in that process. The next topic up is comprehensive zoning. This is something that we know it's Many people, it's one of the main things that that residents and business owners talk about. It's something that happens every so often when new plans are adopted. So we wanted to just talk a little bit about how do we get there, what is it, and kind of clarify a few things. But before we get into what today is zoning, comprehensive zoning, how it's going to be carried out, just wanted to point out, I'm not going to read all these bullet points, but Maryland and Anne Arundel has a long history of planning, of land development, starting with, you can see on the left side of the slide, that's one of the early topo maps for Annapolis from 1650. And there are, planning was done in the state, in the county, in many different ways. In the beginning, it was colonial planning. Then in 1926, with a famous U.S. Supreme Court case, Euclid versus Ambler Realty Co. is one of the things that made zoning ordinances common. And then, if you trace a line all the way to today's smart growth initiatives, you do realize that there is a very diverse type of planning and land development that happened through the county in almost over, a little over 100 years. In the modern era, plus several more stages that happened before. Today, instead, we're presented with a somewhat different conception of what is planned land use and what is zoning in Anne Arundel, and how do they work, and why, as a resident, as a business owner, should I care, and what should I really care about? On this slide, there's a lot of information. I'm going to try and guide it, starting from the left corner. You can see on the left a map that is similar to the map on the right side. However, there are two very distinct things. The map on the left, that is the planned land use map that was adopted with the Plan 2040 General Development Plan last year. That planned land use map contains 15 planned land uses that provide the framework for the zoning district assignment, that, however, is a different layer in terms of just the legality of property rights and what can be done and carried on or developed on the land. It does guide the types of activities that can be carried on a piece of property. And generally, it does provide some sort of compatibility regarding the zoning districts that are instead represented by the map on the right side of the screen. And another way of distinguishing the two and trying to make a sense of this is thinking about zoning with our county code. County code is really, and really in Article 18 of Anne Arundel County Code that was first adopted in 1952 for that ordinance. It is what tells you what is the bulk and scale of and other development requirements that need to abide by if you would like to develop your property in a certain way. Now, generally, the zoning districts must be compatible with an underlying, that's how we call it in plenaries, an underlying land use. And this is something that is easier to see in the next slide that I'm going to bring up. But the difference between the two is that land use is really policy, but then zoning is the law that is set through county ordinances and other ways. Now, another way of looking at this relationship is actually to look at this table 17, which is contained in the general development plan. And it tells you what is that compatibility and consistency proof that we use in the Office of Planning and Zoning when looking at possibilities for a particular piece of property. On the left side, on the leftmost side is the land use designation list. For example, we have an industrial land use designation. And with that industrial land use designation, you can see pretty much at the half, a little lower than half, you can see that there are 3 zoning categories that are generally consistent with that land use designation, which are W1, W2, and W3, which describe 3 distinct zoning districts, each of which has different bulk and scale requirements and different uses that are allowed in various ways on that property. So this is a very interesting table and one that it does not immediately strike as an easy one to understand, even for us doing the works on the back end. But it's one of the most fundamental things we wanted to talk to you about tonight. Also because during the drafting of the plans, we will also look at both the planned land use for each region and a proposal for comprehensive zoning that will be for each of the regions the adoption of a new map. A new map that will have a lot of the zoning districts that we expect to be consistent with what they are today, but there is going to be work regarding regarding what will happen in the next years, and what do we hear from you, the community, about the future of zoning for specific parcels. And I'll talk about that process in a second. The other thing I wanted to point out is that the county council is really the decision-making body for comprehensive zoning legislation, because it does that map, the comprehensive zoning map, which is pretty much a fixed in point in time way of looking at all the zoning districts within a region. It is adopted by ordinance, and that is how the process ends or culminates at the end of the region plan process. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I do want to point out that there are also other development regulations that do affect how the land is used, and that typically don't take the same spotlight as the zoning, or the how I call them, the colors on the map that everyone is entirely interested in and wants to know more about. But a lot of the details are the ones that really create places or spaces that are either desirable or undesirable. And a lot of these other regulations are contained in separate manuals, separate county articles that are not really touched on by the Office of Planning and Zoning directly, and other state laws and federal laws that every person that is seeking to do something on a piece of land needs to abide by. And a lot of these regulations actually end up affecting a lot how land is utilized, and what does it look like for us going through it on a daily basis. I just showed you a few pictures of uses that at 2 times they were the same exact use on a piece of land, but they look very differently from each other. And there are reasons why that is a thing. So that is to say that also, although the colors on a map are very important, there is also a lot that as a community we can do to improve the places that we live in. This is another slide, this time regarding the comprehensive zoning process and the milestones that we drafted as a department. The eight steps that we plan on carrying out throughout this study, along with the drafting of the region plans, to lead to the adoption of a comprehensive zoning map by the county council. Step one would be to solicit the public input on the assets and challenges facing each region. This SAC, which stands for the Stakeholders Advisory Committees, discuss and have been discussing development patterns and identity areas where land use and zoning changes may be needed. And they will discuss during their monthly meetings, which, by the way, I encourage everyone to get informed on, participate as much as they can, listen in, because they will discuss the criteria, and then eventually, after step two, which is our planning and zoning staff analysis of zoning and the maps, it will be reviewing a draft land use and a draft zoning map for each region, and make a recommendation about it. So we are talking about presenting new maps to the SAC for review, updated maps, and then having a public review time for 45 days, and also 45-day during which property owners can petition for changes to their own piece of property, or property that they have interest in legally. Now, step five would be reviewing the comments and owner applications that are related to these proposed maps. And we plan on doing that in between April and May of next year. So also pay attention to the timeline, because we're talking about having a very thorough process, and certainly being able to listen to everyone regarding this. And we will include in June of 2023 a public review draft region plan, along with land use and zoning maps that can be commented on at that time. The steps actually wrap up with the presentation of the plans and the maps themselves to the Planning Advisory Board for a recommendation, which will include public testimony, and we encourage, again, everyone to give feedback at that stage, and then will be finalized with the county council review and adoption through a public hearing. At this time, and I'm sure there are questions, and we're going to have the Q&A after this. There was a pretty intense slide in terms of process that we just talked about. But let's take a break from the legalese law planning and talk about some exciting community involvement and opportunities, and a demonstration of one of the best tools that we developed, which is the feedback maps. Patrick, are you there?
I'm here. Yes, ready to talk a little bit about some of the different ways that we're planning on reaching out, and how you as citizens can be engaged and make your voice heard in our process. So this slide that Lorenzo just put up here, it shows some of the range of ways that we're planning to put together that will facilitate residents being able to stay informed, give input, and provide feedback into this process as we move through it. So if you start with our region plan hub site, which is on the right of the slide, you'll see each region has one dedicated hub site as shown. These sites are dynamic. We will frequently be updating these with information as we move through the process. So it's a good idea to to take a look at those sites for your region and to bookmark them. You can visit the URL at the bottom to get you to these 3 sites. Throughout the process, we'll be using questionnaires to gather input, and then as well as in-person and virtual events as we're able to throughout the county, as the COVID situation allows us to do in person as well. We'll use those to share out info and to get feedback from you all that will help inform the process. And all of these events will be noted on each region's hub site. We do have an appointed stakeholder advisory committee, as Lorenzo mentioned previously. Each committee member represents different parts of the region, and their role really is to support the staff and collaborate in the process of developing the plan. We have shared with them a public involvement plan that provides a bit more detail on some of these outreach efforts. And there is right now a feedback map. That last bullet there mentions a feedback map that is available for comment now. And in just a few minutes, Lorenzo is going to give a demonstration of that. Lorenzo, if you'll go to the next slide, though. We have been collecting public input for each of these regions since the listening sessions that started back in 2014. And a lot of what we've heard has really aligned with and kind of reflected what we heard under Plan 2040. Since the December kickoff, we have had a digital questionnaire launched in each region, and we have launched those feedback maps both virtually and in person at some of the libraries and other locations. So what you see here are some of the comments that we've received in each of the regions. They reflect some of the general themes that we've heard in all 3 of the regions. People really love the location and proximity to opportunities, like opportunities to work and dine and shop, and proximity to recreation. But then residents are also concerned about safety, both whether it's crime or issues like pedestrian networks, sidewalk networks, and concerns with speeding traffic. So these are some things that we're hearing from each of the regions, and we're getting other comments that are tailored to each of the regions as well. Next slide. So this is a word cloud from the results of the Region 4 survey, and it just reflects the most frequent words that were used in response to a free response question. It's very similar to the word clouds that were generated by the other 2 regions, but you can see that the respondents in their responses, they appreciate some of the local options for walking and shopping, biking, visiting parks and trails, and spending time with friends and family in their communities. This kind of input, it is something that we go through. We read every single comment, and it will play a role in helping us work with the stakeholder advisory committee to refine the goals and strategies of Plan 2040 to each region plan's context. And at this point, I think Lorenzo, you're going to give a demonstration of our feedback map that is out now. This is available online, but also available in some of the libraries and other locations around the regions.
Yes, thanks for that, Patrick. Yes, this is true. We do have the link, which is the easy link to remember is www.aacounty.org/hubs. That will lead you to the hub page, and you can access the feedback map from there. However, at every library in the county, you can find the physical type of this map, and you can leave comments there in case you want to do that as well. But from the hub page, which you should all see at this time, to access the map, you really want to go in the region that you're trying to comment or look at the comments on. And in this case, I will click on Region 2 Feedback Map. The button is right there, readily available. And I didn't even have to scroll down right now. The screen did it on its own. You can see instructions on how to leave your comment. The maps are really thought around 3 different types of comments or categories. The hashtag love it for existing community assets. We also have the hashtag fix it for challenges that need to be addressed, and the hashtag dream it for ideas for future assets. The easiest way to leave comments is actually to click on this button to open up a new screen page that allows for a better view. You're gonna see a welcome message, some instructions, but the comment button is actually on the top left corner. If you can see my mouse, my little hand there, I can click on comment, and after the map loads, you're gonna first see what are the comments that were left already from previous residents or community members. For example, if I click on this green dot, I know that that is a hashtag love it comment saying great hiking trails, bird watching, and natural area. You can see that on the left side of my screen. And he's talking about the wildlife loop near Fort Meade. And this is how you read a comment. But if you go back and you can see a summary of all the ones that were left, at the bottom, you can actually click on that plus or the comment button. And what that does is that it allows you to click, you're doing a left click to add a point. And at that point, it reveals the location that you inputted. You have to choose your feedback type. Love it, in this case, I'm placing. And I'm just going to write, I love this place. Input my name, it's optional. And then the email is required, and it won't be published. So do not worry about that. This is how you, well, make sure you finish you complete and click to end your message. I'm not going to leave one now, but that is how you leave a comment in our feedback map. And like Patrick said, we're going to take every single comment very seriously. And it's one of the best things you can do to let us know exactly in your neighborhood, in your block, if there is something that you really want us to look at as we draft these plans to take it into account. And let me exit all of my multiple tabs. And this is time now for our Q&A session. I'm going to reshare my screen. And before we begin, I do want to, we're doing good with time. I do want to make a few housekeeping notes. Again, please remember the purpose of this Q&A is for all the residents and stakeholders to communicate to us, planning and zoning, any thoughts or questions that you feel are relevant to the drafting of these regional plans. In the interest of everyone attending, please keep in mind courtesy towards everyone and limit yourself to 2 minutes at a time for your comments. We will do our best to address all the comments and questions that come our way. If we need more time or to go and research something specific, we will definitely be happy to get back to you separately via email. You have our contacts that are going to be related at the very end of this presentation. Everyone on the staff is ready to assist with any comments or questions you may have beyond this. We're going to be here in this together for many months ahead. finally, we can begin calling people that requested to speak. We do have Jessica that is going to be asking you to unmute yourself very soon. But if you have technical issues or you had typed in the chat some relevant question or comment that needs to be addressed, we'll do that afterwards, and Eric will be bringing those up. I'm gonna push this button to go to our live Q&A, and you should all be able to see this, we call this the Jamboard, which is pretty much gonna have a summary of all the questions and comments that we're receiving tonight. Without further ado, Jessica, do you have somebody lined up? Who is the first person that wants to speak tonight?
Yeah, so first on our list is Ted Kraus, and on deck is Kate O. So Kate O, get your notes ready, and Ted Kraus, just give me one moment here. All right. So Ted, you should be able to unmute yourself, and whenever you're ready.
Good evening. I'm Ted. I'm a long-term resident of Annapolis. I'm here to focus on the land use along Ridgely Avenue, just north of Route 50. As a quick aside for you professional planners, I grew up in Euclid, Ohio. So I learned about Euclid v. Ambler in junior high school civics class. Ridgely Avenue, north of West Annapolis and Route 50, has already been identified by the long-term planning staff on the Region 7 virtual driving tour as needing attention. This section of Ridgely Avenue is just north of the popular watering hole Heroes, just as a point of reference. I'm specifically concerned about the properties along Willow Road. It's a short dead-end street surrounded by commercial properties on two sides and highways on the other two. This land is currently designated as low density residential in Plan 2040. Full disclosure, I am a property owner of about a third of that land and 4 properties along Ridgely Avenue to the north. By point of reference, one of my properties is the Wellsview Cottage across from Weems Creek Medical Center. My long-term dream for the properties on Willow Road is commercial usage, replacing the low-density residential land use now designated. These Willow Road properties, consisting of 5 buildable lots and 4 unbuildable lots due to size, are all remnants of the expansion years ago of Highway 50 and construction of the so-called new Willow Road. It's only 2.3 acres of land there along Willow Road. Commercial land use will be consistent with the immediately adjoining larger parcels along Ridgely Avenue to the north, some of which I own, and across Ridgely to the east. Commercial land use will justify assemblage of the struggling Willow Road parcels, and they are struggling, and facilitate their redevelopment to better serve the community. I won't go into the arguments favoring commercial land use tonight. That's good for another time. And I want to thank you for the opportunity to make these introductory comments.
Thank you so much, Ted, for those comments. I see, well, myself and other staff are taking notes on the comments tonight, and I appreciate you being here, and we'll definitely consider everything during our analysis. But again, everyone, all property owners, residents, feel free to follow up on all the events that we're going to be having, especially for what you think specific uses and future, the future of different properties is. So there's going to be many opportunities beyond tonight. Jessica?
All right, so next up is Kate O, and on deck is Paul Christensen. So Kate O, whenever you're ready, go ahead and unmute yourself. All right. Kate, did you have any comments or questions you wanted to share tonight? I believe based upon the registration, you indicated that you might be interested in speaking. So if not, no worries, but if you do have a comment or question, feel free to unmute.
Thank you. I do not have a comment at this time.
All right, thank you. All right, next up is Paul Christensen, and after that will be Sally Horner. Paul, you should be ready to go whenever you unmute.
Good, thank you. I'm Paul Christensen. I'm chair of the Communications Committee of Growth Action Network. We're a network of about 25 organizations, and we have indirect links to several thousand county citizens. I want to first thank the Stakeholder Advisory Committee members for the time and attention that they volunteered to give to the regional planning effort. It's a significant commitment, and it's much appreciated. However, I want to point out a potential communication problem that needs to be resolved to improve the process. Outreach to regional citizens is essential for planning, and the meetings like the one we're having tonight can be very useful. However, there also needs to be a means for citizens to communicate directly with SAC members. In principle, the Gmail addresses posted on the Regional Planning Hub are a way to do that. In recent weeks, though, I found that SAC members are either not checking their email or not opening the subfolders that Gmail automatically sets up for them. Our organization has produced 2 videos reviewing our members' perspectives on planning issues in Region 2, for example. Each of these was sent twice to each Region 2 SAC member from our organizational account, and I also sent an alert from my personal account. Our email service reported that organizational messages were typically opened by less than 1/3 of the SAC members, and videos were not viewed by all of those. So follow up with SAC members in Regions 2 and 4 reveal that they only infrequently check their mail and seldom open the promotion subfolders where organizational messages are automatically sent. So tonight, I want to plead with the SAC members. Please set up your Gmail account in a way that quickly brings to your attention messages from citizens like me who are trying to contact you. Your outreach efforts are much appreciated, but this is an area that needs improvement. Thank you very much.
Thanks for those comments, Paul. Thanks for being here. Next one up is Sally. Is that right, Jessica?
Yes, that's correct. Sally is next. And then after that will be Pat Lynch. Let me get Sally ready. All right. So Sally, whenever you're ready, feel free to unmute. And I do just want to let everyone know, if you're dialing in, you can use, I believe it is *6 to mute and unmute yourself. But without further ado, Sally.
Hi, thanks for calling on me. And I also want to thank the committee for the work that they're doing. Actually, I had just said that I might speak. I wasn't really planning on speaking unless there was something particular that came up. However, I am most interested in the preservation of the impervious areas in our watersheds. And this is, I know, more related to the green infrastructure plan than to the zoning, but I guess I'm kind of curious as to how the green infrastructure plan and this zoning process that we're going to be seeing coming up soon will really be able to connect with each other. How do they talk to each other?
Dr. Horner, this is Christina Pompa.
Hi, Christina.
I'm sorry, I have a terrible cold and I think I
Uh-oh.
sound horrible, but you know, if you stopped into any of the county council meetings or public hearings on the green infrastructure plan, you know that the green infrastructure plan is a non-regulatory plan, and council emphasized that in its adoption. So it certainly can be looked at as an option, but the big thing that I think we're going to try and do with zoning, which is really where the relationship is trying to bring zoning into conformance with the land use that was adopted in Plan 2040. And there are plenty of opportunities where there are inconsistencies right now. So you may remember through the GDP process, we talked about consistency changes. This is one of the first times in many years that we actually reviewed the entire land use map for the county and made recommendations for revisions. Similarly, with zoning, we're going to review the entire county. So I hope that answers your question. Really, the main relationship is between Plan 2040 and Plan 2040's land use map, the region plan's land use map, and then zoning, not necessarily green infrastructure. But we also hear you and are taking notes on your desire for preserving perviousness.
Thank you, Sally, and thanks, Christina, for that answer. Jessica?
Up next, we've got Pat Lynch, and then on deck, we have John Schindler. I was seeing a John with us before. So John, if you're still here, raise your hand when it's your turn, but let me get Patricia. All right. So Patricia, if you'd like to provide a comment or question, just unmute.
Yes, thank you for all your hard work and for the effort you made to bring us all together to talk about these regional plans. I am president of the Broadneck Council. I also represented the Broadneck as a CAC member for both the short-term SHU administration as well as Stuart Pittman's, and worked very hard with the excellent group that we had as Citizens Advisory Committee members. The issue that I'll always bring up is traffic and transportation. As all of you know who have traversed the Route 50, 301 corridor in the Broadneck Peninsula, we are bogged down with traffic in all summer weekends with no relief in sight. There is a possible third bridge that will replace the 1952 bridge that's 2-lane that is now 20 years over its lifespan. And we know that's a priority. So we're working through the BRAG with the NDTA and SHA in order to affect any plans that may be needed. But the point is, we kept raising the issue that even though we were told as members of the BRAG, as members of the CAC, right at the onset of our study, is that we were 95 in the county, 95% built out, that there was very little property left to build in. We know that the town center is a prime focal point of development. We know the Jessup area is another prime focus of development. And yet we don't see the necessary transportation plans. It seems like, and I brought this up at many meetings, it seems like we go after development and then after the fact, we talk about transportation. And there's nobody who has worked on this Plan 2040 who knows that transportation was a very minor subject to be studied and come up with resolutions. So I want to point that out, and I will bring that up at every meeting I'm at, because transportation is not resolved. I also found out that the traffic studies that the county performs, they do the study and they do not go back and check to see if their study was accurate. So there's really no accountability when a traffic study is done on a proposed development. And until after the development is in place and you see reality, you don't know whether your traffic study was correct, but it's now on the books. So that is all I want to say tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Patricia. I appreciate your comments. And yes, transportation is something that we definitely always want to look at with regards to land use. Jessica?
All right. I think John is no longer on the call. So Keisha Baird, you're up next. And then Gary Mahler, you're on deck. All right. So Keisha, if you had a comment or question, feel free to unmute whenever you're ready.
Hi, I didn't have any comments or questions for tonight. Thank you, though.
Thank you. All right. So next up is Gary. And after that will be Elizabeth Rosborg.
Okay, thanks for letting me speak again. My concern, like I said earlier in the day, but I wanted to repeat it for people that weren't on earlier, is that there's a bill that the county council is considering, Bill 3122, introduced by Andrew Pruski and Sarah Lacey, both from Region 2. And that bill will effectively rezone a large amount of land. The zoning that they're talking about is R15 for 5+ acres, allowing mixed use. That's going to have a major impact, not only in Region 2, but also Region 3 and Region 5. And those SACs are not even convened at this point, and yet this decision that the county council wants to make is going to impact these other areas with enormous issues with traffic, with high density living, very low quality of life for the people that live there. We've seen this already in Jessup along 175, and this will only exaggerate the problem. The water runoff, is basically the lots that are being built now are blacktop, concrete, and roof. And there's no opportunity to really speak of for the water to absorb in the land. The other big issue is, why is the county council and why did OPZ go along and approve this and support this bill that basically zones a major part of Region 2, if not all of it, before the SAC has a chance to even consider the implications and the intended effects or unintended effects. And I think there's a lot of unintended effects. We're very much opposed to that. I hope you guys reconsider and come back at the next council meeting. I guess it'll be in May, and maybe reconsider your support. I don't think it's a good idea. I think you should let the SAC make the decisions as we were told during the Plan 2040 deliberations, and as we've been told since then. So let them do their job. Let's not rush into this thing and screw it up. So thank you. And if people need more information, I hope you all go to the Growth Action Network website, which is www.growthaction.net, to learn more information and watch the videos that give you a very good overview of the zoning issues, land use issues in Region 2. So thank you. I'm done.
Thank you, Gary. We appreciate you being here tonight and for your comments. Jessica?
All right. Without further ado, I think Ms. Rosberg is our last person who is registered and raised their hand.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Hopefully you can hear me all. I can lower my hand now if I can figure out how to do that. Okay, thank you. First, thank you to everybody who has volunteered to be part of this process. I know what it's like as chairman of the CAC for Plan 2040. It's tenuous. It takes a lot of time. So we appreciate the volunteers. We appreciate the staff. And it is a team effort. And so I just want to commend you on volunteering and making this happen. Going forward, I agree with what Mr. Moeller just said. This needs to be a Region 2 issue. It should not be a county council issue for rezoning and making multiple mixed use development. A lot of these LUCAs were deferred to the regions, and they need to make those decisions, number one. Number two, I also agree with Pat Lynch that those traffic impact analysis studies are never gone back with and studied again. We've had this issue over and over and over again. It needs to be changed. And the region plans have an opportunity to do this, to influence the county council and to make that something that does happen and to improve upon it. We have 2 subcommittees that are now in the works trying to improve the process, and these TIAs need to definitely be improved. Number 3, these comprehensive rezonings. This is a huge issue. And I asked the administration, I asked the Office of Planning and Zoning to clarify the process. We had land use change applications that were due November 15th, 2019. Then we had staff recommendations. Then we had OOHRs. A year later, we had Planning Advisory Board recommendations. A full year later. Now we're 2 years later, and we're having region recommendations. How many times are we going to go through comprehensive rezoning? Is this going to be ongoing for the next, until the next plan 2040, 50? When we do the next comprehensive rezoning, is there no end to these land use changes? We need to set a deadline and make people adhere to that deadline. And if not, then we just need to be prepared to do this ongoing for the next 10 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Lorenzo, could I just make a couple comments in response to Ms. Rossborg?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
I really wanted to go down to your comments related to comprehensive zoning. And, you know, we did open the LUCA applications in November of 2019. Staff had time to review everything and make land use recommendations. But then additional applications came in through the process. I do suspect the same thing will happen with zoning, that people will not be aware that comprehensive zoning is going on. And then either during the PAB process or the county council, they will submit. Obviously, from a staff perspective, we really appreciate when the applications come in, when we open the applications, because we have longer time to analyze and deal with them. But we don't have the ability to stop applications coming in later in the process. I did say in my opening remarks that I really encourage stakeholders to stay with this all the way through, including at the Planning Advisory Board and at the County Council, because the Plan 2040 was an example. There were over 120 amendments submitted by council members, the large majority of those passed. So it is vitally important that when the plan goes through and you're supportive of it, that you stay with it through the approval process. Thank you.
I would just like to add one thing, Lorenzo. and I agree with Christina, sticking with the process through the adoption of the plan, but also after the plan. We can't stop the county council from introducing legislation. That's their prerogative. So it really helps, if you're there in support of or have concerns about legislation, you should voice your concerns or support for legislation that is proposed.
And can I just add, I mean, there is a deadline on the application, just like what Christina and Cindy said. And those deadlines need to be publicized and adhered to, because this is only making more work for OPZ. And they don't need any additional taskings, believe me. So I hope the citizens will get the word out. I hope the SAC will pass it and say, look, this is the deadline. If you want to apply for anything, it needs to be done in a timely manner and publicized so everybody knows what's going on. Thank you.
Thanks for your thoughts, Elizabeth. And I believe this pretty much wraps up our Q&A
There's
session.
one other raised hand in the participants, so I'm just going to give Amy Leahy 1 moment.
Go ahead. Sorry, Jessica.
Sorry. Amy, did you have a comment?
Yes, I did. Thank you so much. I wasn't planning on speaking tonight since I did earlier today, but I want to I want to back up what Elizabeth Rosberg was saying about the rezoning efforts that are going on right now. I know earlier today that Christina had said that we don't have any control over what the county council puts in as legislation that rezones. But I would like to mention that there's been an effort over the years to not allow what we call spot rezoning. Now, if the county council puts in legislation that is not adhering to what is already part of the county code, then that's really considered spot rezoning. So even though we may be told that we have the ability to testify against this kind of rezoning, it is really up to the county legislation to basically say, if it's not part of what's in the code right now, it is not to be allowed as far as passing any legislation. I also want to address what Lorenzo had said earlier today about the small area plans. The small area plans were not really a big fail, as was indicated earlier today. The problem with the small area plans was that they were never codified. They were part of a community effort, but there was nothing in the county code that said that they were to be taken into consideration when it came to planning for the future growth of Anne Arundel County. So the reason that we are now doing what we're doing now is because it actually became part of law that what happens in the stakeholder advisory committees and in the citizens advisory committee, it will be part of the county code. So it really wasn't a matter of there being a failure on the part of the citizens way back about 10 or 20 years ago. It was because it wasn't part of the county code. Well, now this is supposed to be part of the county code. But I just want to make sure that those of us who are here on this Zoom meeting right now are aware that there has been a huge effort in the past to direct the growth of Anne Arundel County. It was a citizens input that was really part of what the citizens wanted. And now what we're looking at is what the administration is doing that isn't necessarily what is in agreement with what the citizens of the county would like to see.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
I
Thank
just
you.
I want to make a couple of response comments to Ms. Leahy. I would agree that the planning efforts for the small area plans, they were not a failure. What failed with those from our perspective, staff's perspective, is that it was not sustainable to keep staffing 16 small area plans. And so we have gotten to a place where we are doing small area planning, but we are handling larger regional areas with that. When we talk about implementing goals, policies, and strategies, either in Plan 2040 or as they get more granular in the region plans, two big components, legal components, are the zoning maps, which zone land, and then the zoning code. So the SAC members can make recommendations on where we should have code revisions, and that kind of bill can accompany the region plans. But again, the region plans are still plans, and we have to take their implementation recommendations and then codify them. Now, remember, the county council adopts all code, and we can make recommendations based on best planning practices for what we'd like to see as far as reform in either Article 17 or 18. But ultimately, the county council has the authority as to whether or not they would pass what we recommend. Thank you.
Yes, thanks for those clarifications, Christina. If Jessica, there's no one else at this time, I will stop sharing the Jamboard that we all use to see all these comments and questions live, and take it back with my presentation that is now at the, we reached the portion regarding the next steps and opportunities for involvement.
Lorenzo, there is one question we need to address in the chat. Blake Wilson asked, do property owners have to apply now if they want a different zoning at the time of the comprehensive plan? And if so, how will the property owners nearby know of such application?
Thanks for that, Eric. We are not currently accepting petition that are related to the comprehensive zoning map that we're going to be working on, but we will have that application be open, and we will advertise it largely to everyone, so you will be aware of it. Stay tuned on the region plan hubs. That is really the best tool you have. Sign up for our mailing list. All the information regarding when that window is going to be available is going to be there.
Yeah. If I can add really quickly, Lorenzo, Blake, previously you had asked what applications was Elizabeth referring to, and it was the planned land use change applications during the Plan 2040 process. So we'll have a similar application period that will open up probably toward the end of this year, where people can apply for a rezoning through the comprehensive rezoning process that will happen with these region plans. So exactly as you said, Lorenzo, we will be advertising all of that through our hub sites, through our email list, and make sure that everybody knows when that application period is open, so that if that is a thing that you're interested in doing, you can get your application in.
Thanks, Patrick. So with that, next steps and opportunities for involvement. First thing is comment on the feedback maps. The deadline is June 9th to do that. You can still see the comments. You'll be able to use it. It's a great tool. Please use it. If you have questions, let us know in the emails that we're about to give you shortly, or show up at your local library or if you come there for a meeting with us, you can find the hard copy and use the live map there. We're also going to be hosting a variety of in-person outreach events throughout the regions. So follow along on the hubs, like I said, or during our email blasts and mailing lists that we have. Sign up for those. We will also have community visioning sessions. They're anticipated to be carried on this late summer or early fall. And what that Mystic Ward visioning means is really, we're gonna look to you, towards you to help us put some words in these documents regarding certain specific actions that you want to be taken in your neighborhood, in your region. And we're talking from, block specific, intersection specific suggestions. Envision how you see your region be for the best in the next years. Finally, follow our monthly stakeholder advisory committee meetings. There's a lot of work that all the SSC members, and a big shout out to them. They're doing a lot of work, reviewing a lot of material that we're presenting them with, and having really good conversations that, if you're interested, like I believe you are, since you joined us tonight and earlier this morning, some of you, you're gonna wanna keep an eye out for all these events that we're gonna carry out with them through the entire year. Again, you can see the aacounty.org/hubs, which is your one-stop shop. At this time, I want to thank you all for joining us tonight. It was great having you. The emails where you can contact your region staff are there. Please email us with any question or comment you may have. Let us know how we're doing, and we're always looking to improve anything on this process. It's a very exciting time to be planning for Anne Arundel. With that, unless there are any closing remarks or someone wants to add anything, again, thank you, everyone. It's been great being with you tonight.